This is KGW News at noon.
The highest-ranking political and public safety leaders in the metro area are trying to present a united front when it comes to curbing gun violence, including shootings near schools. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brenda Braxton. You know, one of the big takeaways here, Portland's mayor and police chief are talking about bringing back school resource officers. KGW's Blair Best covered their press conference and walks us through what happened.
The group talked of how they're confronting a public defense crisis, citing the record number of homicides this year. They also talked of bringing back school resource officers to Portland Public Schools again in the wake of recent shootings. SROs were discontinued in the wake of the George Floyd murder. It's a controversial subject for parents and students, but the biggest issue for the DA is the need to invest in more prosecutors to get more criminals off the streets and keep them off the streets. While they're working together to address high-level crimes such as homicides, they're also focusing on smaller crimes affecting community members every day while facing these unprecedented challenges. Here's what the Multnomah County DA and Portland's mayor have to say.
Over the last 2 years, our community has been largely defined by a strain on our public safety system. From emergency operators, police, prosecutors, the courts, the jails, and public defenders. These deficiencies aren't new, but they have been made visible as we continue to reckon with the global pandemic that's exacerbated these resources to the point of breakage.
Our community, I think everybody can agree, has endured unacceptable levels of violence and crime in recent years, which has pushed our public safety system from top to bottom to its full limit.
Portland Police also announced that next week they'll be hiring 14 more officers, bringing the department total to more than 800. And despite all of these challenges that they're facing, they continue to encourage people to report crimes to police. Blair Best, KGW News.
The Better Portland organization met last night to discuss gun violence in the Rose City, and they heard from community members. Pastor Corey Pritchett says they're focused on how neighbors can help each other.
Because it's going to take more than just law enforcement or just government. It's those people that are out in the community that hear and see things that have to help facilitate peace.
The group is pushing for more options for mental health treatment. They also want to create a de-escalation hotline. It would advise people on how to talk to a friend or relative who may be involved in gun violence. Well, this afternoon, we're talking about something that can really be difficult to discuss: mental health. We've recently reported on 4 murder-suicides in our area, so we wanted to just take a closer look at some of the resources available to help. This is a look inside Lines for Life. It's one of the centers here in Portland fielding calls to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It just launched a few months ago, and we do have that number at the bottom of the screen. You can call 988 if you're struggling or if you know someone who is. Lines for Life can even help you plan out what to say to someone in crisis. Counselors say it can actually be a good thing to bring up suicide and create a safe space to talk.
To ask directly, are you having any thoughts of suicide? And I know that's a hard thing to do, but the way I encourage people to do it is to normalize it and say something like, you know, sometimes when people are going through a really stressful time in their life, sometimes they have thoughts of suicide. Is that something that's coming up for you?
As far as knowing when someone needs help, experts say watch for sudden mood changes like sadness or stress. But someone could also seem abnormally happy all of a sudden. Isolation and an increase in drug and alcohol use are also warning signs for suicide. Again, the number to call for help is 988. Now to Portland's Old Town, where vandals hit the Salvation Army building for the second time in a week. This is on 2nd and Burnside, and taggers painted graffiti all over the place. Employees say this is an expensive problem to manage. Volunteers were just out there scrubbing graffiti off the building as part of a new effort called One Block at a Time. The Salvation Army says it's planning more of these cleanups, but it hasn't said when. I know a lot of you are enjoying the late fall sunshine, but Rod, wow, was it a cold start to the day?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking low temperatures this morning that got down to 27 at PDX. That's actually this surprised me when I looked. It's the first time this fall that the airport has slipped below 30, because, you know, a lot of you have been mid-20s a whole fistful of times, and we did that again this morning in Kelso, where it was 25. Hillsboro, one of the colder numbers at 23 degrees. Troutdale was warmer because of east winds out in the gorge. And then here are some other numbers. Look down at Lakeview. 8 below this morning. Burns was below. Over in Bend, it was 9 degrees. Okay, despite that, we are warming up nicely. The warm spot today, without doubt, will be at the coast. In fact, our live Uquinta Bay camera in Newport, it's 51 degrees right now at the coast. 51, pretty nice. Just as clear up along the north coast. There's Tillamook Head from the camera on the roof at Gearhart by the Sea, looking down towards Seaside. Seaside could get up to 50, 53 degrees this afternoon. It is all clear looking off to the west from the Reserve Vineyards and Golf Club in Aloha. And from being down into the low 20s, you folks are up to 41. It's a pretty nice warm up. 40 in downtown Portland. We do have clouds out in the gorge as we expected. A little bit of snow still on the ground in Hood River. That's Cathedral Ridge Winery. You folks in the Hood River Valley only looking at highs this afternoon around the freezing mark. Portland will get up to about 43 or 44. We'll be back in the 30s mid-evening, and it will be, for the most part, just as cold for you overnight tonight as it was this morning. The 7-day forecast actually starts warming us up on the way to Christmas Day.
Interesting. We'll talk more then later. Thank you, Rod. A new independent report spells more trouble for the National Women's Soccer League. This 14-month investigation confirms more than half of the clubs continue to report misconduct like bullying and abuse. KGW's Alma McCarty takes a closer look at the findings and how we got here.
After a roller coaster of a year,
It's been a roller coaster, mainly going downhill.
fans of the Portland Thorns hope the latest report into allegations and issues will lead to real change for players in this club and for the entire league. Gabby Rosas is part of the Rose City Riveters.
You can't just do whatever you want. You can't say whatever you want. You can't treat people however you want. That mentality needs to go away.
Wednesday's report comes a little more than 2 months after another high-profile investigation. In October, the Yates report found emotional abuse and sexual misconduct were systemic in the sport, spanning multiple teams. That included the Thorns organization. Investigators also ran into problems accessing documents and witnesses while working on this report. The new Covington report found much of the same to be true. The joint investigation team found, quote, that the underlying culture of the NWSL created fertile ground for misconduct to go unreported.
The culture of the NWSL that kind of enabled not just abuse to flourish, but to not be reported is this culture of be grateful, be loyal, you're playing, and that's a gift. And Portland, I think, especially was able to use that to its advantage because for so long in this league, it was the team.
Meg Linehan is a senior writer with The Athletic, covering women's soccer. Her story highlighting the allegations against former Thorns coach Paul Riley sparked the current investigations. While he was head coach of the team, Riley allegedly sexually coerced players, provided alcohol to players and drank excessively with them, and made derogatory comments about players' weight and sexual orientation. The new Covington report found that the Thorns, U.S. Soccer, and the NWSL enabled Riley's coaching career for another 6 years for failing to be transparent about the allegations and findings of misconduct against Riley in 2015.
And there's a lot of finger pointing at who knew what and who would have been able to say more. But fundamentally, I still think that there is a failing that any of these people with knowledge of the investigation from 2015 could have at any point said more.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
So here are the 6 changes the investigation is recommending. Strengthen the league's anti-harassment policies. Develop and enforce guidelines to address misconduct. Implement trainings that address player and staff experiences. Improve hiring practices. Enhance reporting and investigation procedures. And finally, prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.